Hi people, welcome to Chess 24/7 and you are encountering another online chess video, and this is more of a tutorial video where I will be talking about various principles that are used in the opening stages of the game, what you should do, what you should not do. And this is basically for the beginners, and if you have just started playing chess, I think this is going to be a great source for you to learn the openings, why we make certain moves and why we don't make certain moves. So with that said, let's get started. Okay, so if we talk about the board, I think we all know that these four squares are of great importance, namely e4, d4, d5, e5. And the reason behind them is simple. I mean, if I put a knight in one of these four squares, and if now I look at the number of squares that the knight is attacking, I think it will be 8 different squares where this knight can go to. Yeah, while if I talk about the knight on, let's say, h3, right now it's only attacking these three squares, which is something that we don't, or maybe this fourth square also, which is something that we don't want. So the crux of the matter is that you should try to control these four squares either with pawns or with pieces. So for example, if I play knight f3, I'm controlling d5, I'm controlling e5 and d4. Yeah, another way to control would be to play a move like c4, which is also known as English opening, where I am controlling the d5 square. Yeah, so if my opponent goes d5, I can take the pawn. He can take the pawn with whichever way he wants to but now he has lost control over the e4 square and on the c4 square. So probably that's why we try to maintain our center pawns while we are going for the game. And yeah, so I'll give you an example and I'll try to show you the importance of center. So let's get started. I play e4, my opponent goes for e5, knight f3, knight c6, and now I play bishop b5, which is also known as Royal LePage and the famous opening. And the idea is to take this knight out and then to win this pawn, and then I'll be having more center control, because now then my opponent's center pawn will be lost and I'll be having more control over the center. And if you have control over your center, I think you have much more control in the game. So that's my first point, and first step I should say, that you should try to control all these squares, and if possible you should also try to control the squares which are adjacent to these center squares. So with a move like f4, although I don't suggest this move, but if you play f4, you're controlling e5 and your opponent cannot just play e5, otherwise he'll lose the pawn and the control. So that's about center. I hope you got my point, that center is of great importance. Now the second thing is to develop your pieces. I think obviously chess is a game where you involve each and every single piece of yours. You just can't, bring out your queen and try to win the game. You have to involve each and every piece, and it's the coordination that wins the game. So obviously in the opening stage you have to bring out your pieces, as I've previously said. And now we have something called two-knight defense. Right now both the players have two of the minor pieces out. Black can it's white turn, so white can probably castle, get his king safe. Black will play something like bishop c4 and now bishop c5, and now something like e3, d3 can be played, and now black can even also castle. So the crux of the matter is to get your pieces developed. And another thing is that you should never ever, or let's make it, you should try not to move your piece twice in the game. What I mean to say is that you should never move your piece twice in the opening stage if not required. I mean, obviously if your piece is under attack you have to. So for example, e4, e5, knight f3, knight c6, bishop b5 and a6, and right now white has to make a choice. Either you can exchange the piece or you can drop it back, or maybe you can even come back to e2. It's up to the white's player's choice, but now you have to move your piece. I mean, obviously sometimes you have to break the rules. Obviously you just can't sit here and develop another piece, otherwise you'll be losing a piece. So each and every rule has certain exceptions. You should try to use your own I would say your own creativity, and should try to play the game. So that's about developing the pieces, and I hope made my point clear that you should develop your pieces, and you should not try to move your piece twice in the opening if not required. So my next point is to castle early as you can, and I mean your king is the main piece in the game, so you need to ensure that your king is safe, he's safeguarded, and then you should only proceed further in the game. Good advice would be to get your king castled within 10 moves of the game, but that's more of a subjective choice. If you're kind of a risky player, you can castle later in the stage, but if you have just started, if you're a beginner, you should definitely get your king castled as soon as possible. So I'll show you a game: e4, e5, d4. So white has played d4 now, and if let's say black captures on d4, here white can make another sacrifice, giving another pawn, and here white will develop. And if black is really not concerned about developing his pieces, and if he takes another pawn, and now let's say he tries to develop, and now white is just one move or two moves away from castling, but let's say he also develop, and now the problem is he cannot develop his knight because of the pawn push. So let's say he tries to play b6. I mean, it's more of a very kind of a move that I would never make. I would try to develop my pieces, and let's say okay, let's say white castles here. Now white's king is safe. Let's say black is now trying to develop on the queen side. Here comes queen b3, attacking this pawn. If you play a move like this, now the problem is you're blocking your dark bishop. So, and it's also obviously not a good idea to move your queen too early in the game. So now if you look at the situation, the white side is doing much better, I guess, because although yes, the white side is down a couple of pawns, but he can bring his rooks into the action. I mean, his knight will get easy development. Let's say like this, he can go to d2, c3, or like even to a3. But if you look at black pieces, his king side pieces are not developed. His king is in the center of the board, and it's going to be tough for black. So one key advice is to get your king castle as soon as possible. Another key thing is that you should never ever bring out your queen too early into the game. I mean, if you have some great attack, only then you should try to bring a queen in the opening stage. Otherwise, you should just avoid it. So let's say if white is playing e4, b5, pawn takes, queen takes. Now black is bringing out his queen too early into the game, and now white will just play knight c3. The queen has to move, and now white has two minor pieces out and black has none. So he'll try to develop. I am now getting more space into the center, let's say something like this, and now I am planning for some discoveries on the queen. So the queen has to move once again, and now you can probably pin the knight, and probably can go for some stuff on like this knight to e5, or maybe this pawn push will suffice. So what I'm trying to say is that you should never ever try to move your queen too early into the game, because you're now giving your opponent much better chances of attacking, because his pieces are out, your king is in the center, white is just one move away from castling, and it's going to be tough for black. So the crux over here is to never bring out your queen before your minor pieces, and before getting your king castled. One last piece of advice would be to connect your rooks. And by the connecting of rooks, I mean that there should be no piece between both of your rooks. I mean, if you look at the position right now, white has the ideal setup, and white is one move away from castling either on the queen side or on the king side, and the moment he castles, he'll be connecting both of his rooks. And it's important because once you get your rooks involved into the game, you have actually completed all steps of opening, and then you can move for the middle game. So let's say if black has castled, obviously this is more of a European view because black will also be playing moves, and this is something that will never ever happen because there are no moves made by black. But just for the explanation purpose, let's look at the position. Now all the white pieces are ready to attack, and with this move, white's last move, that is to castle on the queen side, white is connected both his rooks, and now he can actually try to bring some ideas. He can probably attack, he can bring his rook on the e file, and then he probably can put pressure on the e file, get it open, and something like these ideas can are in the air. So the crux over here is to connect your rooks as soon as possible, and once you do that, you have completed your all steps of openings, and probably then you can think about the middle game. So with that said, this is the end of this video. I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did, then please hit that like button, subscribe to my channel, and see you in my next video. Till then, take care, tada, goodbye.